middle school, which we're going to walk through for you today, and you can see there's a score of 79-13 for an unadjusted score of 92. So you're going to take this particular sheet then and use that amount of information. On the bottom of that other sheet, you saw that you put in right here 44,208 square feet. That's the piece right here that you're going to use onto the score sheet. You use this one then, and we're going to put it in. The rest of this I've already put it into a template. 44,208 square feet. And here's the interesting thing. We scored a 92 on the evaluation of the building. And so the 92 that was scored, there's your 92 right here. The 92 that was scored says this: invert and subtract from 100. Just as we are doing as professors at times. You miss 16, you take 16 from your 100, you got 84%. We're doing the same thing with this. We calculate these based upon an inverse proportion. So 16, or in this case 18% of the building needs to be upgraded. And that's what I'm going to pay for that cost. So here's where we do. 100 minus 92 gives us 8%, just as I mentioned, of the building. I'm going to give you the cost per square foot for upgrading, and that changes. When we got ready to do a building here a year ago, we used, interesting enough, about $225 a square foot. Today, that building that we're going to be constructing here on the basis came in at about $185 a square foot. For renovation's sake, your can be a little higher or a little lower. But for the sake of this learning experience, we're going to say 150, just to keep a clean amount. And that may raise or lower, but that's all right. You know how to do it. Do the formula. So $150 a square foot times the 8% gives us this. First of all, square footage times your amount of building that isn't good tells us that we have that amount of square footage, 3,537 square feet, of building that's not good. Remember, we're trying to get a good building. That was the challenge that they gave us when we did this study, $700 million. Tell us the building in Idaho that are not good. That means that they judged them lower. So 3,500 square feet times the 150 tells me $530,000, $500,000 to upgrade Middleton Middle School building. So then I go through and say, okay, there's my price tag of approximation. Now, you remember this. When we did this study, there were 25 of us correlating, working on validity. You're one person out there doing this by yourself. Here's the caution. Don't take that sheet, give it to a superintendent somewhere, and say to him, I am a student at NNU, and this is what I've equated your building costs to be. That's dangerous for you and them both. Because if that 530 is 930, or if that 530 is 330, then we've done both people a disservice. So I give you that caution. You have a good template here that has been validated with people that are into this business of scoring. You're going to use this for us, for our purpose of the class, so that you understand the process, you understand the history behind this, and you understand the appreciation now of what goes in a building when you walk up to that building. Here's other things when I talk to you about suitability of space. Suitability of space is the 7.0 scale, and we're not going to assess that for a cost. People ask, why not? That is subjective. That is something that your superintendent and school district will say to you, we appreciate this, but it may be suitable in our mind and not suitable in yours. The functionality of the building is different. You can say whether that building functions the way it should function, and again, that's subject to their interpretation, but it is not near as difficult to judge functionality, because functionality says, do you have a library? Do you have what you need to function the way a building needs to function? Suitability is within the function. Is the things that are there, the lab equipped with eye wash, is it large enough to associate that I'm not going to catch someone on fire? Is the conditions within that building suitable to run education today? So here's some ideas of suitability for you. When you go through the building, you look at these things. I've done this just for this building. We're going to walk through for you today. Hallways, narrow, yes or no? Suitable, if they're narrow and we bump them against each other, it functions because they can get to one end to the other end. But is it suitable? That's a question that you're going to ask yourself. And in our case of these hallways, I'll walk through today and say, well, they're suitable. Inefficient science labs, inefficient band room, no choir room. These are things that are specific to that middle school. You do the same thing in your building you're going through and list these areas that you think has an effect on suitability. I have not exhausted this entirely. I've looked at things that I question in that building from that observation and say probably are no's, otherwise I wouldn't bring them up, but I leave them unmarked for the sake there. Small library. Well, small isn't necessarily bad, but is there a functionality of the facility itself you can get into and out? Yes. But is it suitable that we can only hold 5 kids? Is it suitable that one of us go up to a bookshelf and we have nobody else that can get around us? No kitchen in the building. There's pros and cons on that. Is it able to be transported in? Probably if it is, it's suitable. If it isn't, and the kids are eating cold lunch every day, then maybe that's a decision of someone else. No central air. In my school district, I say no central air is a problem. In some districts, we're going to adjust and unadjust the score and say it's not required. We're in a climate that is Lewiston, for instance, that's pretty warm, but it's not real cold. So they may say to themselves, I need air conditioning there, whereas in Moscow, up the hill, it's not that hot, and they say I don't need air conditioning. So again, when you look at this score, that's the indication here, whether you're going to adjust, which is right here, air conditioning. If I marked air conditioning down, which in this particular building you can see I gave it a 6 because I have air conditioning. If I gave that a 1 right here, then what have I done? 5 points times $150 times the square footage, so it's cost me an upgrade. So I'm going to give that 5 back to the district and say that 92, if I marked it down, now becomes 97. And if that's the case, then that adjustment is affected within the sheet. When you're done with your sheet, your second sheet that is, you're going to do some observations. Is this suitable overall? From my observations, and that's something I suggest you do, from your observations, not that you're giving them hard facts and saying, this is an unsuitable space. From my perception, from my observations, from my analysis, which is one person, I say it's probably suitable spaces. That gives you enough fluctuation there. So, when you looked at those 2 sheets, then now, you have done a good job of assessing what's there. So, here's your next step. You're going to take that particular school we went through, Middleton Middle School here, scored, for instance, this was scored at a different time. I can score the building each year, and as a superintendent, I will do that. I want to go through and score that building after every year of maintenance, operations, and changes to see whether my score goes up or down. Why? Because I put money in there for the taxpayers, and 2 is I want that principal to know that their building today is a better building tomorrow because of what we've done to that building. That 92 may be 85. In this case, you saw 92 there. It got an 85 at one time, and the cost for that building was right here. So between the time that was done and now, it got some improvements. So as a district superintendent, you're going to be able to help us prepare our schools. So as you do more than one school, Middleton Middle School got an 85, 663. Add them up. Guess what? In our school district, we averaged 91. Good score, right? You go back to your guide and say, what is a good building? 90 or above, good building. Average of 90 says the Middleton School District have done a pretty good job of maintaining or putting new buildings up. But guess what? Almost $3 million worth of upgrade, which is over 10 years, over 5 years. And there's a study that is required in the state of Idaho every year called the State Facility Study that we do as superintendents that has to be turned in, and that is done in a sequence. There's one on the state website that happens to be a model of mine that they used. The document is about 40 pages. And interesting enough, every piece of that is exactly what you're seeing. That's what the state superintendents of Idaho get a chance to see and model is Middleton's, which is what you're learning today. That ingredients were used. This is one of the pieces off of that state study for that purpose.